Hi, in this video, we'll dive right into the next topic of Spark structured streaming basics. Let's understand first what's the basic concept in streaming any data. Here we have unbounded table, which means there is no limitation for rows. As far as this new data in data streaming is concerned, when it is encountered from the next label, you can see this would be enabled here. So our data stream is an unbounded sequence of data arriving continuously from backend, streaming continuously flowing input data into discrete units for further processing. Stream processing is low latency processing and analyzing of streaming data. So here you can see data injection can be done from many resources like Kafka, Apache Flume, Apache Amazon Kinesis or TSP sockets, and processing can be done using complex algorithms that are expressed with high level functions like map, reduce, join, windows, and finally processed data can be pushed out to file system and database and live dashboards. Here you can see entire cycle for my live input streaming, which is divided into data streaming into batches of input data as RDD, and this Spark is also consisting of task scheduler and memory manager. Here you can see streaming is again consisting of streaming computation expressed using dstream, which is also generating RDD transformation and Spark batch jobs to execute RDD transformation eventually. Now, if you go back here in the next streaming part, you can see user session is there, and streaming data is something that will never have a complete data for analysis, as data is continuously coming in where there is no stop. Now in this scenario, to understand this, let's first conceptualize the structured streaming. So let's take a stream source like an IoT device which is collecting details of vehicles traveled on a road. There can be thousands of vehicles that traveled on a road or a log collecting system from an application like social media platform or an e-commerce site. This would initiate a streaming of user actions. Here you can see first part is there. Then it is gonna update user session with user actions and stream of user modules here and map with state operation over here. Okay. Now let's see what kind of resources available and what kind of write data is available. It's not the case where we can ingest data from every resources. There are some limitations. From backend side, you can see Kafka is there, SDFS is there, Hadoop file system, Twitter API is there, Amazon is there, Flume is there, and so many other resources are also available. These are receivers. They are just divided into batches of input data, and finally process is there and pushed to external resources. Then it is writing my data into Kafka. Again, this is output where I am writing my data set, and then I'm going to creating this output HDFS, and this application can be used by thousands of users where they can be doing many clicks and you want to collect those click streams. So these are basically the endless incoming data, which is called incoming data stream or streaming data, and we are using this data for dashboarding or any Redis output. Complete list is giving on the like documentation of Amazon or PySpark. You can go there anytime. I'll give the details in this comment box where we can have what kind of resource available. Let's go back to the hands-on where we are creating these streaming part. Now let's move to the hands-on of this streaming part. For this, I had already created cluster with this runtime version with this drive type, and here we had certain Spark. If you can see, this is not Azure, rather than I'm using Databricks Community Edition. So why? Because I'm not going to shoot my billing here. Now going to the next part where I am writing my notebook, I'm just creating this streaming basics. So first I'm going to use this PySpark code to create my structure type, structure field, string time, integer type and float type. Here you can see it's automatically connected to going to connect with my recent compute resources which I connected here. Okay, so if it is running, so it will be created automatically. Now this is resource directory where I am using this path. You just go back here inside this. How would you find this path? You just go back here in catalog. Inside this dbfs, you can see there is called file streaming. So I'm creating a new location for this. What kind of location I'm going to create? I'm going to create a folder called stream. So if you can see inside this dbfs, if I go back here, I do not have any folders inside file store. So I'm going to click on this file store and going to inside this file store, I do not have any folder, such folder. So I'm going to create a folder with a stream. Inside this stream folder, I'm going to upload one file here. Okay. So instead of this streaming folder, I'm just creating streaming. I'm using my existing file. But let me tell you how to create this folder. You can go back here and upload portion and just write this folder name streaming and upload any files here. You will be getting this streaming folder. Inside this streaming, you will find this countries1.csv file. If you want to copy this path, you can copy this path from this location, close it here and just go back to your workspace. And if I am going to write any new variable dir underscore equals to quotes, inside this quotes I'm going to paste this path. But if you can see, this is not using the entire path. I'm not using any file. So I'm going to remove this file name and this would be streaming only. So I'm going to remove this path which is my location, just providing location of my directory, not entire path. Now what's the solution where I'm going to run this path, where I'm going to create my schema. If this schema is not existing, I'm going to create this schema here. So this is name, this schema name is stream and I'm going to create this one. If you go back here inside this DB tables, you will find some kind of schema. So maybe after some time it will be reflected. So what's the location here? Stream. Okay, so you go back here and inside this stream, after some refresh, you will find this point. Can you see? This is automatically defining all your checks. Now it may, after some refresh, it may reflect here. Okay, now meanwhile it's gonna create, I'm going to create one read stream. What's the read stream code? I'm going to write it here, just assigning a variable df where read stream will read my CSV file and all the CSV file header is equal to true and this schema is also true. And I'm going to load from this source schema. If you can see, this is source directory. From this source directory, let's run this cell and we will have all the portion here. Here you can see 15 rows are there, but there might be some different rows in that schema. Okay, can you see now this stream database is showing previously, which was not showing there. Why? Because this page was not refreshed. So after some refresh, you will get this point and just click on this dbfs again. Here you can see this dbfs is here, and inside this dbfs you will find relevant folder which is streaming. Inside this streaming you will find this country is 1.csv. okay, here you can see 15 rows because we have so many files. We had so many files there, but I'm going to display this df which is showing only streaming initialization and will display something. What kind of space streaming is there? You can explore this one, and you can see this is input processing unit, this is batch processing, and there is aggregate state. There is display query 1. You can see this is going to down, which means this is input rate and this is processing rate, like processing is gonna down here, and this is input rate, like input range is very high. Okay, so now can you see this is just going down, which means my input rate is still there but processing is almost completed. Now I'm going to go back here and click on this compute resource, click on this cluster, click on this Spark UI. Here you can see this executed driver added here, and if you go down you can see this query is display query with this certain ID is also showing here, and how many tasks we had completed. We had completed over 2 tasks here. Okay, so when it was submitted, what was the duration, everything is showing here. Now go back to your Spark compute application, you will find other processors as well. Can you see this is showing your odd jobs, and you can see this Spark streaming is also there. This Spark streaming will tell you that what kind of operations are being performed in backend. So here you can see you are keen interested to understand what's the running behind this job. So I'm going to click on this run ID. You will find what kind of operation, and we will see statistic behind this streaming. Can you see this is gonna stream, this is gonna processing rate, and this is gonna input rows when we do not have next any other file. So this is going to down in the next timestamp. So this is the backend area where this running batch is 1 minute 40 seconds, almost 2 minutes, and everything is running behind the Spark. Now here you can see display is still there, it's not interrupted. I want to interrupt this file, so what I'll do, I'll go back here, and after displaying all these values, I'll have to just click on this interrupt and confirm cancellation, yes. Okay, now this is now stop, it's not going to read anything. So this 6 rows is here because this file is having only 6 rows. Now go back here, I want to write something, because once we have read that files, we want to write in any other resource, which is output. Once we have processed the data, and for a moment to discuss this processing part, we had just moved to writing stream. This is write stream, this is option checkpoints. So checkpoints is very important. You can see this would be checking your previous version, this would be checking your every other data point, like if it is any other point is there, or you can source directory and you can create another checkpoints. I'm going to create checkpoint 2, and then output mode is append here, and a query is append query here. I'm going to make it append query 2, and going to stream table. Inside the stream I'm going to append table 2. Let's write this stream in my Spark job. You can go back here and click on this Spark UI again. You will find this would be another option. Can you see if you scroll down, you can see this is also going here, showing here. This is again another file, and Spark Compute UI is also showing another thing. Can you see this is also showing this part? Okay, now you can see, go back here, this is still running, and append query is also showing some graph. So for a quick review, you can see this is your input in streaming data. It's still running and it's going down because it has processed everything. Now you can see this is showing some relevant value. Let's see, I want to see ingredient of this table. Now what's the location? The location, I'm going to write a SQL query. This would be inside this stream. How would you find this location? You go to catalog. Inside this catalog you will find these stream, append table 2. Inside this you will find all these tables. It's loading my table. Can you see this will be showing my refresh, schema and sample data. Okay, can you see this is showing my schema and this is showing my sample data which I have ingested right now. So for let's get started with this part. Can you see if I running this table query, this would be running this part. Okay, let's try to upload more values here. So I'm going to move this catalog. Inside this catalog, I'm going to click on Databricks file system. I'm going to upload some more files here. What will happen when you will upload some file? Can you see I just uploaded countries2.csv. Click on done. Now you can see this countries.2csv is showing here. Now going back to my streaming part. Now previously we had only 6 rows. Let's display this content again. It's initializing my streaming and it's running that how many other cells are going to input. It's checking the injection, that folder again, how many CSV folders are there, and going down here you can see more rows are there. Now we can see 12 rows here. Okay, now if you want to display this Spark jobs, you can see now we have 15 jobs, stage 25, 1 and 1, 2 of 2 is running. Okay, so both are running. Now you are interrupted. Let's interrupt this file and just write this stream again. I'm going to write this in SQL query. Now this is again showing here. Now go back to my compute resources. Inside this compute, I'm going to click on my cluster, click on my Spark UI again, and I'll have another job is going to run. Can you see this is showing another job portion remarks. Now I can see this is showing another query which is running in the next part. Here we can see another queries which we have collected. Whatever we have done here, it is showing everything here. Now if you click on structured streaming, it will depict everything in the backend. Can you see this query 2 is running, this query 2 is running also. If you can see, this is running my state. If I click this run ID, this would be the next query which I have run. This is streaming and this would be everything, every query is running here. Okay, this is how we can perform this streaming part. Okay, so I'm going to display this query. Previously we had only 6 rows. Let's see, have we uploaded another data and we had updated data? Yes, now we have 12 rows. If you want to stop this streaming, which is again checking backend or writing something, you can run this code, write stream stop. If you go up, you can see this is showing not. If you want to interrupt this one, you can interrupt this part as well. Okay, now go down. Let's see how many output modes are there. So I'm going to see what kind of output modes are there in our streaming part. Here I'm just using this dbutil for removing these two stream database, and this one is streaming part. Okay, you can remove this part as well. Now I'm going to remove this part. You can remove this part as well, and I'm going to create this streaming, drop this data table if it is not existing. Okay, so you can remove that streaming, the database, you can remove that folder, you can remove that database also. So If you want to create anything from the scratch, you can create your schema, country, citizen, and you can import your source directory as well, as we have done in part number 1. Now, by creating this part, I'm going to create a data frame using my Spark code again. So I'm going to write this code, which we have already done. So I'm not going to run this cell because we have already this part. Now let's see what kind of append code is there. So using this append, I'm going to writing my data using this append. You can see this is my write stream code, and inside this write stream, I'm just using this append checkpoint. This would be append checkpoint 3, and I'm going to write output mode as append. There are different append output mode available. If you can see up inside this also we had output mode append. So here also we had output mode and append, and append query is again this showing this point 3, and I'm going to write this value as 3. Okay, so let's run, and here you can see this is gonna write my ingest table. Now go back here. Here you can see this is showing my append query writing streaming, and if you want to see what kind of code we have written, you just write this stream.append table. What is the append table? This is append table 3, and if I try to run this code, you will find this will be writing my code. Can you see? Now we have 12 rows. Let's see what kind of another writing code is there. Here I am having this complete append. So for this, I'm going to write this one using Spark schema. I'm going to write this aggregate function, group by, and aggregate function for sum. I want to see this total population of my each country. This is gonna aggregate population of each country here. So I'm going to write this code using Spark. I'm going to write this code write streaming, and here I'm going to create another checkpoint. So this would be checkpoint number 4, and I'm going to write this complete mode. Okay, and this would be complete query, and I'm going to write this complete table. Now if I'm going to run this cell, okay, so this my I didn't run this cell, so this would be group by, and this would be respective code here. Can you see it's still running and processing that part, and streaming is also here. So now we had 4 jobs, 1 2 3 stages, and this is gonna complete that part. Meanwhile, I can write my SQL query in order to depict this code. So here you can see this is my complete table. If I want to see in the backend, I'll have to jump to my catalog option. Inside this catalog, I'm going to create this is complete, and all the database tables are showing here. Can you see this complete table is there? And if you click dive right in this complete table, you will find the aggregate values of each country. Let's run this code. It's asking whether this previous code has been completed or not. Let's see in terms of India. So in India, here we had first row 10, here we had second row 10, here we had third row as 5, and then fourth row as 5. So total output should be for India population is 30. Let's see whether it is giving 30 operation or not. So let's go down here. If we will getting, can you see in front of India, with respect to India, we are getting 30 total population, so which is giving correct output or the correct aggregate function in my streaming. Okay, let's go with the next part in triggers. Okay, what kind of trigger and how reading streaming is there. So I'm going to read this streaming first. So first create this read streaming. This is not gonna write, and I'm going to read this streaming. If you recall that here also we had this read streaming. So first and foremost, I just read it. I'm not going to run this cell because it's already there in my notebook. Then first default or unspecific trigger is there. Whenever I'm going to run this trigger, this is gonna create a checkpoint. Let's say checkpoint trigger, and then I'm going to output mode is append, and default trigger name is default trigger, and I'm going to create an append table as trigger. Okay, now let's run this cell, and then I can see this would be my trigger point. Okay, now let's see what kind of other triggers do we have meanwhile this is running. I'm having processing time. Let's say I'm going to run this cell where I'm going to provide processing time as 2 minutes. What does it mean? It means that when we are clicking on this catalog, in this catalog you have so many triggers. So this is trigger point. Okay, and now I'm going to click on my compute. Inside this compute resource, I'm going to talk about the approach of watching Spark UI. Here you can see Spark UI is there. Inside Spark UI you will find more and more operations there. If you go here to right, can you see so many operations are giving here? Okay, because we have done so many things running. It's in running condition. If you click on this Spark streaming as well, you will find several others jobs are also running. Can you see default trigger is running, complete query is running, append query is running. If you will click on this run ID, you will find others details as well. Now you can see these processing have been finished. Now these are active queries. Now I'm going to click here. You can see this is showing processing stream. So I'm going to click this processing stream, and what will happen inside this processing stream, if you will refresh this code, you will find processing stream will also showing here. So this will walk you through the streaming part where we have structure streaming and what kind of triggers we are running currently. Can you see now we had default, complete, and this one. And if I run this code, then after some time this will showing this processing query as well. Okay, this will be showing here. Now go back to another triggers. For example, I'm having available now trigger. Can you see this would be available trigger? So available now is true because I'm going to use this trigger whenever I'm going to provide this trigger name. If I'm running this code, which means it will be streaming that code which is available now, and whereas it will trigger that code which is running in the interval of 2 minutes. If you go back here and refresh this page, you will find this processing time streaming as well. In this Spark UI, you click on this Spark structure streaming. Can you see this is available now, and this is complete, and this is append query, and processing time is also finished here because when it got incremented, it got incremented at 31 to 1431. If you'll check after 2 minutes, it will be running again. So this would be your current scenario. Here you can see this is showing my available now. Okay, so if you want to see every code here, you can see your code is also showing. So I'm going to create this code, and this would be depicting my append table. Can you see I'm just writing my append table, and this would be my last checkpoint. Can you see this is showing my available after 6 rows after this point? Okay, how many rows do we have? Okay, now if I want to run this streaming part, I'm going to run this streaming. Processing time is 2 minutes, and then I'll run this SQL query. Then you will find this would be fetching my append table here. Can you see this is showing all the 6 rows here? Okay, this is how you can see everything. Let's run again. Can you see this is my all the codes here, right? Okay, so thank you so much for joining this streaming basics. These are all streaming and everything is there. If you want to read more about this one, I'll share the content and the file where we have all these text behind this code. Thank you so much for joining.